Okay, now to complement one of the videos I looked at in terms of the digestive system and also to link in with diffusion, there's a practical we normally do in lesson called the Visking tubing model. Now, sometimes in science we use these things called models to show quite complex processes that are easy for us to understand. So in this particular model, we're going to model the small intestine. So we've got a beaker full of water. Inside we've got a piece of Visking tubing, which is a little bit like a little plastic bag almost. And it's got these tiny microscopic little pores around it. And then we fill that bag, or that Visking tubing, full of a starch glucose solution. Now the big circles here are representing starch, and these little circles are representing glucose. Starch obviously being a big molecule and glucose being a smaller molecule. Now in this model, the water is actually simulating the blood. So this is the blood supply surrounding the small intestine. The pores are acting a little bit like the microvilli of the small intestine. The Visking tubing itself, the whole tubing is representing the small intestine. The beaker is just the abdominal area. Most important thing really are these pores and also the water, the blood and the content. So it's a bit like you've just had a meal. The enzymes have broken down some of the starch into glucose. There's a little bit of starch left. And what happens is the glucose molecules are really small, so they can actually leave, they can diffuse through these pores. So they end up going into the water. Now, unfortunately for starch is too big. So the starch molecules cannot get out of the bag. They're too big. So it's simulating the absorption of these small soluble molecules in the small intestine, and the large insoluble molecules like starch cannot get through. Now what you can do to prove this is you can actually take a sample of the water after say 5 or 6 minutes, and you can test for the presence of starch using iodine. Now of course you won't find any starch in the water because it's too big, it can't get out the bag. If you do find any starch in the water, it's probably because there's a little leak somewhere in the bag. There's a rip, or you haven't sealed the ends properly. Of course, what you should find in the water after 5 or 6 minutes is glucose, because it's small enough to escape. So you can test for glucose using Benedict solution, heat it gently, and it will go an orange colour. So we should find in this water, we should start to see glucose is present, but we shouldn't see any starch escaping the bag because it's too large. So that's an example of a model we use in science to simulate a living process.